Welcome and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here on this historic day. I'll give you a quick little rundown of how this will transpire. Athletic Director Gary Barta will give some opening remarks. He will then turn the microphone over to Deputy AD Barbara Burke, who will give some comments and introduce the head coach of our women's wrestling program, Clarissa Chun. Clarissa will give some comments of her own, and once Clarissa is complete, we will open it up to questions for all three and bring up Tom Brands if necessary. And when all of that is said and done, we will have a photo opportunity here with Gary and Clarissa. So that being said, Gary, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And back in September, I talked about it being a historic day because we announced we were adding women's wrestling. This is another historic day because we have found our coach. So excited to introduce Clarissa Chun as our very first head coach of women's wrestling at Iowa. Clarissa's credentials speak for themselves as a competitor, as a coach. But what really became apparent as we started to go through the interview process is her passion, her plan, her excitement to lead this program. Just everybody who was involved in the search, it was consensus that she was the choice, and so we're so pleased that she said yes. What I'd like to do before Coach Chun speaks is have Barbara Burke, our Deputy Athletic Director, who oversaw the search, went through the process, have her talk a little bit about that process and kind of our plans up until now and moving forward, and then she'll turn it over to Coach Chun.
Great, thanks so much, Gary, and I'll try not to repeat some of Gary's comments, but it's going to be hard to. We're so excited to be here today, and I do want to start by thanking Gary for his leadership and support as we move towards adding women's wrestling and then moving towards adding our first head coach. I also want to thank Tom, Terry, Ryan, and Bobby for their support and their partnership. You know, this doesn't work without the collaboration and partnership of our men's wrestling program, so that's critically important to us. And they have been on board and bought in since day one of the discussion of adding women's wrestling. So, Coach, thank you so much. And you guys can have a chance to talk to Coach a little bit later if you'd like. Also, special thanks to the search committee, all the work, the time, effort, and energy that they put into the search process and getting us to this point today. We did have a tremendous pool of talented, qualified candidates. And at every interaction, Clarissa just rose to the top. All the discussions that we had, and she did a great job, and she really set herself apart. And as Gary mentioned, her credentials obviously speak for themselves. Myself personally, I was impressed by her passion, her competitiveness, her desire to be an ambassador for the sport of women's wrestling. I'm confident, and we as a group are confident in her ability to assess talent, train young women, and lead these women. She's demonstrated this at the highest level of the sport. She clearly knows what it takes to develop champions. She's very humble, and to the point that I had to joke with her and tell her to not downplay her accomplishments. She's done so much for this sport, and she deserves a lot of credit for the growth of women's wrestling. While today we are introducing Coach Chun as our first head coach, her actual physical date does not start until February 7th. She has some commitments that she wanted to fulfill, and we want to be respectful of the others and the individual work that she has, that she wants to complete those duties. Once she gets here in Iowa City in February, I'm confident she's going to hit the ground running. She'll be hiring staff, recruiting, planning, scheduling, all the things you would expect to happen as we start up a program. In addition, we anticipate we'll have some young women that will want to join the program in fall of 22. We will work with Coach and our compliance staff to make a path forward for those group of women. They will be able to train and potentially compete unattached. As we've mentioned before, the actual first season of competition under the Black and Gold and University of Iowa will not begin until the fall of 2023. With that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce not only the first head women's wrestling coach here at the University of Iowa, but also the first NC2A Power 5 head women's wrestling coach in the country, Clarissa Chun.
Thanks, Barbara. Thanks, Gary. Man, I'm a loss for words, honestly, in the sense that since the announcement yesterday, I've been just overwhelmed with positive support and love from the community around the wrestling community and the community in Iowa. And just, I don't know, I can't express how much gratitude I have for everyone and everyone here today. So I know that this doesn't happen overnight. You know, to start a women's wrestling program at a Power 5 institution is only the beginning of so many great things to come. And I know that it took a lot of hard work and an investment and commitment from everyone in the community members in Iowa and at University of Iowa administration. So thank you for everyone who's been a big part of making it happen. I'm just gonna say a lot of thank yous because there are a lot of people that I need to thank, because I wouldn't be sitting here for that reason, you know. Gary, thank you so much for your sincere interest in me as a person before engaging me in my coaching style. You know, I really appreciate that, you know, the support that I have at University of Iowa goes beyond what I do, but who I am, you know. Barbara, thank you so much for your endless support, you know, throughout this whole process and being available for any questions that I have or didn't have. You know, you made sure that I was able to make the decisions that I needed to make based on all the information you can give me so that way I can make the best choices for myself and for everyone involved. So thank you. Josh Schamberger, who's not in here, but he is a huge supporter and advocate for women's wrestling. And I thank him for connecting me with the wonderful people in Iowa. And just, it's gonna go so far. I'm so excited for this opportunity. Coach Tom Brands, Terry, everyone, all the wrestling staff, men's wrestling team, I feel the support so much from men's wrestling here. I know there was a lot of behind the scenes work that made this happen. Thank you for plugging it in Gary and Barbara's ear to be the first Power 5 institution to get women's wrestling, because no better place than here. So to get it going. I got to meet with Kathy Zaharis. She's awesome, enthusiastic person that I've met. And I know she'll be one of the biggest cheerleaders here, or fans here of women's wrestling. So anyone who's interested in learning how to wrestle females, come see me. To the hiring committee, thank you so much for all your time and your diligence throughout the process and your patience. And I appreciate helping me go through this, you know, and being patient with me through the process. Like Barbara said, I sometimes downplay myself because of stuff like that. But beyond that, I'm forever grateful for Coach Terry Steiner. He's a great leader and mentor to me when I was an athlete and as an assistant coach next to him at USA Wrestling. He's helped me grow in so much as a coach and as a person. I look forward to continuing my partnership with him in ways that I would still want to develop national, world, and Olympic champions, but instead here at University of Iowa. So I'm excited for that opportunity to bring them all in here on this campus. So, and thank you to USA Wrestling for helping me develop as well, you know, giving me the opportunities to develop as a coach. So, and obviously my family and Waylon, my partner, who's been my rock throughout this process. So this is a historic moment for young girls, young women across the country. This is an amazing opportunity for everyone that want to come and compete at University of Iowa. This was a dream of mine when I was in high school, but that wasn't a possibility. You know, wrestling back then, we're making t-shirts that said, girls wrestle, boys play basketball, and I messed that up. Girls play volleyball.
There you go.
Sorry. Girls play volleyball, boys play basketball, and men wrestle. You know, how many of you guys heard it? I'm sure a lot of the wrestlers Coach Brands probably have seen those t-shirts running around when he was competing, but you know what? Now women wrestle too, and now they have an opportunity to come to University of Iowa. The crown jewel of wrestling, is right here. So I'm just so excited to get it going. With that, I know it's gonna come with high expectations, like just because they're here on campus or they become a Hawkeye doesn't mean that they're gonna be winning national titles. They gotta go work for it, earn it, and make it happen. And I think with the energy from the community, that will help lift them up to get after that. So I'm so excited to meet the challenges ahead and bring a winning program here with women's wrestling at Iowa. So go Hawkeyes.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Barbara. If you have a question for Gary, Barbara, or Coach, we'll take those now. Just please direct your question to the person you'd like to hear from. If you need to hear from Tom, call him out and he'll hustle up here. Questions for the table?
Clarissa, what made this an attractive position for you to move on in your career? What made this seem like the right move for you?
Honestly, the opportunity to grow, as a person and as a coach as well, right? I told Barbara in the past, I could, continue working alongside Coach Terry Steiner. Amazing, love working with him, and the women on the national team, love working with them as well. But no better place than to try to take a leap, and challenge myself and breaking out and trying to fill that head coach role than here in Iowa. No better place. When I thought about can I do this? Is Iowa the place? It's absolutely the place. It is deeply rooted. Wrestling is deeply rooted in the state of Iowa. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but Iowa, University of Iowa, to get it going. I had instant support from day one, and I know, maybe other institutions may feel the same way, but I can feel it every time I come to Iowa City or Corova area. It's there, whether anyone has wrestled or not, I feel the deep support within the community for wrestling. So I'm excited.
Clarissa, you made an Olympic team in this building in 2012. The arena was sold out. What did that experience, what did that leave you with about wrestling in this community?
That's exactly what I think about, it's the energy of Carver Hawkeye, I went, so after winning that, as an athlete, I try to tune that out because I wasn't the type of person that would waved around and looked it up in the crowds or anything. But the next day after winning Olympic trials in 2012, I had breakfast. I couldn't even tell you the name of the breakfast joint, but some nice young guy came up and congratulated me, and then didn't even say, but he ended up buying breakfast for me because he was really excited that I made the team and very knowledgeable about wrestling, and came up and talked to me about my match and whatnot. So it was really exciting. That doesn't happen anywhere that I've been. So. Say that I'm an athlete-centered kind of coach, meaning that I care about the athletes very much, and I know that every athlete is going to be different, how they are motivated, how they operate, and whatnot. What I do know as far as drawing on my own experiences, I know consistency is key, to everything in life, right? As far as if you want to move forward and be successful, right? It's not just what you put into on the mat, but also what are you doing off the mat, and then being competitive, competitive, whether it's being your best self for that day, whatever you can pull. You could have a hard day, but bring your best self to that day. So be competitive, be consistent, and for me, it's about caring for one another.
As you move to the next phase in your career, what do you see as the biggest challenge?
Oh, yeah. I think I'm going to learn a lot through this process of coaching at this level, college, Division I. So I'm sure I'll come across a lot of challenges. I know sometimes I tend to want to like take on a lot on my plate and make sure everything's good, but I know I'm excited for the opportunity to hire like a staff that will help me move the team forward, to represent Iowa Hawkeyes.
You've experienced a lot of different firsts throughout your wrestling career, high school, Missouri Valley, when women's wrestling was added to the Olympics. How can those specific experiences help you, being the first here?
Yeah. Oh man, it's always great to be first, right? Whether it's on top of the podium or not. No, honestly, I did I like building relationships, so I did like call up my coach back at Missouri Valley, Coach Malkowitz, and because he was the one that got women's wrestling as far as first collegiate program to offer his women's wrestling scholarship, and picked his brain on like pitfalls or whatnot that I could come across being the first, right? Like I might get a ton of people wanting to like explode through this door, like, hey, take us, and just being able to like manage how to manage. So I'm excited to be the first though and get it going. So yeah.
For Gary or Barbara, you said that Clarissa stood out in the interviewing and hiring process, but what specifically, can you tell a story or an anecdote or something to describe how she kind of stood out in your eyes?
I think for me, it really is the passion that she has for the sport. And I think that's really important. Number one, clearly she knows wrestling. That was never an issue from the get-go. So it was about the fit for Iowa. She loves the Iowa brand. She's been around Iowa City and Coralville. She understands the importance of wrestling in this community. So the big picture, she gets the big picture. And the other piece of it is being an ambassador for the sport, because we do want to continue to help support girls and women's wrestling. And what a great ambassador that we can have for our program and for women's wrestling across the country. So that was a little bit of it for me. I never worried about her ability to coach. She's been coaching at the highest level, right? She's developed Olympic champions. So if she can do that there, I'm confident in her ability to do that here.
Clarissa, what do you want the bedrocks of the program to be? What do you want the program to be about?
I want like a team unity, the collaboration, a competitive collaboration, and I think when the team can work together and be competitive, I think great things can happen. So.
Anything else? All right, wonderful. We will pull some mics and pull some chairs, and we will present you with a photo opportunity here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.